The Fountain, Day 104, Pulling Tomorrow into Today. Years ago, God spoke to me that I'm like David. When he first said this, I really didn't know what he meant. David is so many things: a worshiper in the wild, a man after God's own heart, a king, a powerful leader, an author of many beautiful psalms, an honest person who didn't attempt to hide his flaws but boldly took his weaknesses directly to God. Then I saw it was all of the above. Over the years of learning to have a relationship with God, I've grown into one who's unafraid to share absolutely everything with God. I share my strengths, my weaknesses, successes and failures, worship in all seasons. And I know God, and I'm unafraid to boldly go before him to worship and go before him in worship and to release worship onto the earth. My worship of God doesn't require an audience other than the one. I worship most when I'm alone with him. But there's one last thing that I think about regarding David. He pulled tomorrow into today. David wasn't to be the one to build God's temple. That task would go to his son Solomon. But in his absolute love and affection for God, David did throw up a tent and established a worship culture around the Ark of the Covenant. Pulling tomorrow into today, he began to establish worship culture that we still emulate today. He hired worshipers to provide 24/7 worship before God. He worshiped with such abandon that it was off-putting to some. But he didn't care, because he knew who he was worshiping and that the one is worth it all, even our pride and reputation. He valued praise and worship so much that this warrior king never neglected this intimate part of our creation. We were made to worship. As I consider the way God has created me to intercede and to worship, as I mull over what purpose I was created to complete, I realize that a large part of who I am is one who calls tomorrow into today. As a prophetic voice, I am constantly speaking what is to come over people, calling out tomorrow, calling out the gold inside of them. That's what I call it. As a gold digger, I am often calling to the original design inside a person and speaking life to it. This is the crux of prophetic ministry in this time. When I read the Bible, I'm acutely aware that the prophets of old were often tasked with offering words of correction. In my heart, I believe that since we all have Holy Spirit now, we have an internal conversation with the one who offers correction. And the prophet's main function today is edification. Yes, there are times when we still offer correction, but far more often, it's to call out the good. All of us are capable of cultivating this. We are all created to call out the gold in those around us. Today, I encourage you to try something new. Take a moment and think about someone. Then ask God what he has to say about that person. Ask him for an encouragement for that person. Then take a bold step and either write it down and send it to the person or call and tell them what you heard. It only takes a moment to hear, but delivering an encouragement to someone can have a lasting impact. It will make them feel loved and valued to know that God took time to speak to you about them. What a wonderful thing. It really is. It's a wonderful thing. I treasure every encouraging word I receive. In fact, I have a box with each written word inside of it, and I pull them out when I need a boost. Go and give someone a boost today. But the one who prophesies speaks to people for their strengthening, encouraging, and comfort. 1 Corinthians 14:3. They brought the ark of God and set it inside the tent that David had pitched for it, and they presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings before God. 1 Chronicles 16, verse 1.